All right, now for Evil Dead 2 Ash's abilities. First one is Exorcist. Activating the ability exorcises the demon from any possessed survivor or basic unit. If used on possessed elite or boss unit, the ability drains some infernal energy from the demon. Now this one actually might be my biggest hot take that I've had yet. I think this could potentially be the single most important and best ability in the game. And the reason I think that is that I think as time goes on and survivors get stronger, possessing survivors and using them to kill their teammates is going to become a stronger and stronger and more meta strategy. And as that happens, it may become that Evil Dead 2 Ash is going to be a requirement, because if you make it to where basically your demon player cannot possess anybody except Evil Dead 2 Ash, because he's just going to exorcise anyone that you try to possess, then that's nuts. It's an incredible ability. Don't ever use it on elite or boss units. Always save it to use it on your teammates. And I think it's an insane ability. And personally, I think it's an S tier. Number 2 is Treasure Hunter. This is better than you would think. It says you can see supply crates through walls at close range. The range is pretty big. Like, you could definitely see them from way further away than you could hear them. I kind of thought, like, well, that's not any good, because from close range, shoot, you're going to be able to hear them anyway, so you don't really need to be able to see them. That's going to save you like a few seconds, like pinpointing exactly where it is. But no, you can see them from quite a ways away, and I think that it makes you know, leveling up with Pink F much better. So I'd put it in B tier. Start the match with a double barrel. Like I said, I don't love starting the match with those abilities, because you could just ping a double barrel for somebody. Luckily, the double barrel is a decent enough weapon. It's low shot count, or a low, I don't know what you want to call it, chamber, whatever. You know, it only has 2 shots in the barrel. So that's good, because it combos with their perk that makes it so the last shot in your gun deals more damage. So that's better than having something else that, you know, wouldn't have as big of an impact from that perk. So I would probably put it, I don't know, where do I put the other ones? C tier? Yeah, I'd put it in C tier. Level 25 Weapon Master Double Barrel. Same thing, not great. It's only like a 5% increase, and they're already going to be dealing a ton of damage anyway because of Hunter's ridiculous perks. So that's C tier. I actually, you know what? I'd put this in D tier. And the reason I would put it in D tier is because of the fact that Hunters already deal an outrageous amount of damage. So it's kind of overkill to have like a 5% increase. Like, the 5% increase isn't going to make a huge difference. You're already going to be dealing 3,000 damage a shot. So I think it's worse than other Weapon Masters. So I'm going to actually put it in D tier. Ed Getley. He's an interesting one. I think he's better than I gave him credit for in my Survivor tier list. First one, It's a Trap. When activated, this ability grants use of a unique flashlight that allows you to detect and temporarily disarm demon traps. This is better than I thought it was. It lasts for 40 seconds, which is pretty crazy. 60-second cooldown, not that bad. Crazy helpful when you're doing the pages and the dagger and the dark ones and the book, because I played with an Ed Getley. I haven't played him myself yet personally, but I played with an Ed player who activated it on those objectives, disabled all the traps. It was pretty nuts. So like, it really neutered the demon player for those objectives where, like, those are supposed to be the strongest points of the game for the demon player. So it was pretty crazy. When this is used well, I think it's very, very good. And I actually would go so far as to say I think that it's an A tier. I really do. Oh boy, enduring light increases the battery life of the flashlight. Worst perk in the game, or worst ability in the game. It's not even close. Useless. Like, your battery on your flashlight, you have plenty of battery, and as it is, you should never be using it except in places where you're looting. I've had games where I like have forgotten to turn it off when I was like still pretty new and I was getting used to the game, and I kind of forgot sometimes to turn it off, and I still wouldn't run out of battery. Like, and if you're really disciplined on only activating it when you're looting, you should never even come close to running out of your battery just normally. But there's no reason to have 100% extra battery life. And you shouldn't have your flashlight on all the time anyway, because it'll blind your teammates. So this is the worst ability in the game by far, and probably the biggest reason people say Ed sucks. Weapon Master Crossbow. This is also a really, really bad perk. It's in D tier. It's a D tier for the same reason I said that the double barrel one was a D tier for Evil Dead 2 Ash. This one's even worse though, because at the very least the double barrel is a good weapon. The crossbow is not. The crossbow, I think, is the worst weapon in the game. It's down there with the saw gun. It's so hard to hit shots with. Yes, it does a lot of damage. Yes, it only has one shot in it, so it benefits from that. Last shot in the clip deals extra damage, which is good. But it's so hard to hit shots with this thing. And I know eventually somebody's going to be like, dude, you just suck. You just need to hit your shots. I'm a god with the crossbow. But I've tried to make this thing work. I've tried so hard. It's so bad. Especially because of the lag in this game, the latency. Like, you're going to shoot right at somebody's head, and it's just going to go right through their head half the time. So, the crossbow's so bad. Level 25, the Collector. This one's sneaky good, I've heard. I haven't used it yet, obviously. But it makes it so that it increases the chances that defeated enemies will drop items. Also improves the chance of finding crates of higher rarity. This is really good. This might be, from what I've heard, and in fact, I'm going to get crazy here. I'm going to say this is S tier. The reason I say it's S tier is because I have heard that it basically turns every white chest into a blue chest, and every blue chest into like a purple chest. So it's like you're going to level up way faster with pink F. You're going to find way better weapons on average. You're going to constantly have ammo for everybody in the party because people are going to be constantly dropping stuff. Enemies will. You're going to constantly have more amulets, more shemps, because again, enemies are going to be dropping more items. I've heard that this collector perk is sneakily like one of the better perks in the game, or ability, sorry. Crazy good from what I have heard. I'll obviously need to verify that, but from what I've read, what I've heard, it's amazing. All right, Kelly. Slip shot. When activated, you dodge without using stamina, and your ranged attacks cause bleeding damage to your target for a short period. The bleeding damage is crazy good. I think the bleeding damage may make her the best damage dealer in the game. Amanda may be better, but there's something going on with her like pistol ability being bugged. It's really bizarre. So until she gets fixed, I think Kelly could do more damage than anyone else in the game right now. I think Evil Dead 2 Ash is probably better just because of his exorcism ability. He's got like more utility, but her bleed is crazy. Does an insane amount of damage. Being able to dodge without using stamina is nuts. Basically, you're not going to get hit. Activate this when a boss comes at you, and they'll just leave you alone, and then you headshot them and do a ton of bleed damage. Only a 60-second cooldown. 5-second duration's not great, but 20% range damage is bleed. When you're dealing as much damage as range characters do, 20%'s a big chunk. 20%'s a lot of damage. Now, granted, I will say this. I could be overestimating this because it could get to the point where you're dealing so much damage as it is that you don't need the extra 20%. Like, just using perks makes it to where the 20% is excessive. But even still, being able to dodge forever for 5 seconds is really, really good. I would only put it in A tier though. I wouldn't feel comfortable putting it in S tier because of that fact that it may be excessive. Oh boy, Weapon Master Meat Hammer. This competes with the flashlight perk as the worst in the game. Weapon Masters aren't good to begin with. The Meat Hammer is a terrible weapon, and she's a ranged character, so you don't really care about melee weapons as much anyway. Kelly, it seems like they have designed to be more of a hybrid hunter, but they deal like 30% less damage than warriors do. You should basically never be meleeing unless you absolutely have to. And then if you have to melee, you sure as heck don't want to be using the Meat Hammer, because the Meat Hammer is awful. Really bad. Your next rage attack after a successful dodge inflicts bleeding damage on your target for a short time. It's good. Not great. 5%'s all right. When used in conjunction with Slipshot, it's probably pretty good. Again, it's like you could use it at any point. You don't need to activate it, but it's significantly less than what Slipshot provides. So it's not terrible, but it's not great. I'd put it at B. Battle Frenzy, your melee damage increases the longer you are in sustained combat. You're not going to be in sustained combat very often for a long amount of time, with the exception of the last 3 steps. And it's melee damage increase. You shouldn't really care about melee damage increases. You're a hunter. I don't think this is a very good perk on her, especially not a level 25 ability. It's probably okay. If you run out of ammo, it's nice to have. I don't think it's like god awful, but I just hate having like melee abilities on a hunter because they don't have great perks anyway for like melee. Like this is all they have is like stuff down here. So they're not going to be doing a ton of melee damage anyway. They have Lone Wolf was 30% extra damage when there's no teammates around you, but that doesn't work because you're going to have teammates around you in those situations on the last few steps of the match. So I think this perk is pretty, like it's a strong ability, but it's not strong on a hunter. Like with the context of that it's on a hunter character, it's not very good. I'd put it in C tier. Not like unusable, but it's not very good. Amanda, she's an interesting one because she's bugged. Infinite ammo for 7 seconds. Ridiculous. I think it's S tier. It's absurd. It's a ridiculous ability for a hunter. For damage dealing, it's probably the best ability for a hunter. Crazy with a pistol. I love how much synergy it has with using pistols, because pistol has high fire rates, so being able to just pew pew pew. And if they ever put other guns in this game that have even higher fire rates than the pistol, then this is just going to get even more ridiculous. Like the only reason this thing isn't completely busted out of control is because the only high fire rate gun in the game is the pistol. But if they ever introduce like an automatic weapon, like an AR or something, this is going to become outrageous. Trusty sidearm, start the match with a pistol. Again, I don't like these things where you start with a gun. Yeah, there's not much more to say. I think I've said all there needs to be said on that. It's okay. But most of the time somebody would know to just ping a pistol for you anyway if she didn't have this ability. Weapon Master Pistol, it's only a 5% increase. Again, not great. Lucky for her, she gets so much stuff. Like, it's better than the double barrel because the pistol is not high damage. So she's not going to have the same problem that that Evil Dead 2 Ash is going to have, because Ash is about doing like pop 1 or 2 shots and the person's dead. Pistol is low damage, big magazine, high fire rate. So it's a little more helpful than it is. So that's why it's a tier above the weapon mastery for Evil Dead 2 Ash. she can use the extra damage, because if she's using a pistol, she's not going to be one-shotting bosses even with crazy damage. Accuracy counts. 2% extra damage per hit. This doesn't have a timer on it. Now, I haven't gotten her to 25 yet. So as far as I could tell from reading that, and I could be wrong, and you can correct me in the comments if I am wrong, just reading that, 2% damage per hit means as long as she hits every shot in the match, that keeps stacking. So, like, she never loses that. If she's out of combat for 2 minutes, that doesn't go away. It's not the same as Kelly's ability. Kelly has to be in combat. This doesn't say you have to be in combat. So as long as you keep hitting shots, this is entirely skill dependent. But if you're really accurate, this is one of the best abilities in the game, because you could just, and there's so much ammo in the pistol and stuff, like you could just keep like tapping body shots if you want to keep building it up, and then wait for the boss and then really get close and pop a headshot. And you know, you could start one tapping bosses with a pistol potentially. Like this could get out of hand. I think in theory, if you hit your shots, I think that's S tier. Now, granted, you don't see a lot of Amanda because evidently she's bugged to where when she hits level 10 and gets the weapon mastery pistol, and I'm not rating this weapon mastery based on the fact that it's bugged. I'm rating it based on how it would perform if it wasn't. Evidently when she hits level 10, it's some weird thing where it like decreases her damage significantly with a pistol. So it's really broken right now. And that's why you don't see a lot of Amandas, because she basically doesn't work at the moment, which is pretty sad. All right, Evil Dead 1 Ash. Reassuring presence. When activated, the ability reduces fear levels for you and nearby teammates. I really do think this is an S tier ability. I think it's crazy because it basically means, like, if you stick together with Evil Dead 1 Ash, your whole team never has to worry about fear levels. That's nuts. Like, you know how I talked about Evil Dead 2 Ash could become meta because he can exorcise other people? Evil Dead 1 Ash might become meta instead of him. Because he could just make it so no one ever gets possessed. Like if people actually stick together, he gets crazy. Like he could keep your fear levels way down. And especially if people invest in fear resistance in their pink F upgrades, and then using this in combination with that, crazy. Successful heavy melee attacks partially restore health for you and nearby teammates. This is actually really, really good. I personally believe the best way to play a support is to not worry about dealing damage as much and just go all in on healing your teammates. And having said that, I think you should pick up a hunting knife with Evil Dead 1 Ash as fast as you can and just spam heavy attacks on people. And don't worry about the fact that it's not going to do as much damage. If you find a purple axe later in the match, let someone else have it. You don't need to pick that up. Stick with your common knife because you're there to heal people. You're not there to deal damage. I think if you play Ash that way, Evil Dead 1 Ash that way, I think he could do crazy healing and is really, really good. I think alternative healing is in A tier. And then mark target damage. Headshots will mark the target. Follow-up shot from a teammate will deal additional damage. It's weird because he's not a ranged character. He's a support. It's kind of frustrating that he's got, like, Cheryl, all of her abilities have to do with something with healing. So him all of a sudden having, oh, and now he's like a ranged support is kind of weird. And it's only a 30% damage increase for one shot. So it's kind of whatever. Like, it's not bad, especially if you're like working with your hunters, but like most of the time they're not going to need that. I would actually put this in D tier. Maybe it is bad. Like your hunters should be able to one-shot characters anyway. Like they should be able to one-shot if they spec their characters right. They should be able to one-shot even bosses eventually. So like a 30% damage increase doesn't mean anything to them. And then you include the fact that like someone else may shoot them instead who's not a hunter. Like and waste the 30% damage thing. It's not as good. But I don't know, because there's no cooldown on it, so maybe it's better than I think, but I think it's D tier. A follow-up shot from a teammate will restore a percentage of the damage back to them as health. 30% damage restored as health. You know, actually, I think what I would do is neither one of them are terrible. I'd probably put both of them in C tier. They're both okay. The percentage is big enough to where, like, if you don't have a hunter on your team, 30% damage is pretty good for the rest of your team. And there's no cooldown, so you can keep shooting them in the head if you want. And then if teammates are smart and they shoot somebody in the head and it heals them for 30% of their health, or it's 30% of the damage is restored as health, which doesn't seem like a whole lot, but I guess it depends on how much damage you're dealing. Like, a hunter could full heal themselves off that, I guess. But so maybe mark target healing is probably I think mark target healing might actually be better than I give it credit for. I'll put that in B tier. But yeah, Cheryl is who I want to talk about, because I think she's potentially S tier. I think she's potentially the best character in the game, even more so than AOD Ash, especially once you get her to 25. Healing touch. I wasn't like thrilled about this ability when I made the video about Cheryl. I was probably a little too harsh on it. It's better. It's not like as good as people say it is, but it's not bad. It's really good. I think it's A tier. It's not S tier, but A tier. 80 healing per second is good. It's the only like ability based out of combat healing that you can get, I believe. So like that you could give to your teammates. So it's really nice in that regard. Like, lay that down when you're done with the dagger or the lost pages and get everybody topped up. So unlike the other two support characters, they'd have to burn a Shemps if they want to get everybody topped up. She doesn't have to do that, and that's really, really good. It's also nice if somebody's fighting a boss, you can lay that down on top of them, and then it's like the boss can't, like, unless the boss is really spec'd into boss damage and stuff, they're not going to be able to out damage that heal. So it makes it really good in that respect too. So I'd say healing touch is A tier. Carry more Shemps Cola and start the match with an extra one. Starting the match with an extra one is whatever. That's really irrelevant. If your team plays well, they're gonna give you healing items, and that's not gonna matter. But being able to carry more Shemps Cola is very, very important and very, very good. It's not like amazing, but I do think it's B tier. Drinking a Shemps Cola partially reduces your fear and the fear of nearby teammates. It's just kind of a neat little add-on. It's not that great. It's only 25 fear reduction. It's cool to have, I guess, but like, you don't ever want to use it just to reduce someone's fear, right? It's just an extra bonus for when you have to heal somebody. I don't think it's that great. I think it's C tier. Level 25 contact healing. When you drink a Shemps Cola, nearby teammates will also gain health. So this is more health gained on top of what she already recovers for her team. So I believe this is really, really good. 100 health I don't think is like that much, but it basically like makes it to where you're going to be healing like 90% of somebody's health every time you drink a Shemps. So it like drinking a Shemps around your team is already really good, and this just makes it that much better. So I would probably put this in A tier. And then last one is Pablo. Pablo being able to craft amulets and drop it for your teammates. This is really good. Because this is really good late game when you're not looting anymore and you're running out of your amulets. The only reason I don't think that this is S tier is because of the 120-second cooldown. But this is an insane ability. I really, really like this ability. I'm going to put it in A tier. It's fantastic. And it lets you spam amulets on your team because you know you're just going to get it, another amulet right back. I want to put it in S tier. I don't think it's like game breaking, but it is very, very good. Infernal camouflage. Demons are no longer able to detect you using demon vision. This is nuts because it's even better than it sounds when you first read it. It makes it so the demon, not only can they not detect you with demon vision, they can't detect you when you get in a car. They can't detect you when you shoot your gun. They can't detect you when you do anything. So basically, if you're playing solo queue, this is why I made a video where I called him the solo queue god. He can hop into a car and just go bang out the first 3 map pieces like right away, and the demon's not going to be able to find him. So Infernal Camouflage, very, very good. Definitely A tier. Legacy of El Brujo, begin the match with an additional amulet. This is D tier. You don't need an additional amulet. You should be like full on amulets pretty much at all times. If he had the thing that Cheryl has, where he could carry an extra amulet in addition to starting with another one, then it would be better. But you don't need to start with like an extra amulet. It's not really necessary. He's already going to be full. And ignore this. Like, I'm going to take this away. I was still kind of a noob when I put points into that perk. I don't think you need to start with an extra Shems. I don't think you need to start with an extra amulet. If you're good at looting and your teammates are feeding you healing items like they should be, then you don't need that. And most games, teammates don't give me their healing items, and I still don't need extra amulets to start the match. And you especially don't need it because your shield bar will gradually recover over time until you have at least 1 full bar. So you don't even really need to start with an extra one because you're not going to use it, because you're going to fill up your first shield bar automatically. Surprisingly, this almost kind of works against him. Like, it's nice to have towards the end of the game if you run out of amulets, so it's not like bad. But it does kind of work against him because then if you, I guess that doesn't make sense. As I'm explaining it, it doesn't matter either way, I guess. But like, if you use an amulet and you already have a full bar because of shamanic protection, then you just wasted the amulet. But I guess it doesn't matter because okay, the point I'm making doesn't make any sense. It's okay. It's not great. I think it's B tier. I don't think it's fantastic, but it's not bad. So yeah, this is my survivor ability tier list right here. Here's the final. Ignore these 3 down here. I got to get rid of those. But this is the final list right here. Pretty solid, I'd say. Hey, let me know in the comments what you think. Let me know if you agree with me, disagree with me. You can post your own tier list if you want. I'm going to have it in the description, like I said. And by the way, don't forget, subscribe if you haven't already, if you liked the video. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Let me know how you feel about the survivor ability tier list.